that you guys have in mind, the anxiety that is on your mind as that is at different stages, right? And there's a lot of stress around, should I make it to round through? Round two, is R3 a viability? Is because R1 is gone now, I really can't do much about that. I'm not sure if some people have already applied here for round one and are looking at some schools in round two, and you're looking at, okay, can I do something better in round two? So my job over here is to make sure that I'll calm you down all these things from, all these aspects that are very overwhelming for you. I've been through this process for over a decade now, and every year, I work with people like you, and I understand this, right? So this is part of the process. The idea that I want to give in this session is that whatever stage you are, there are certain things that I really want you to approach in the right way, especially when you're looking at an MBA. And that is what makes your profile different. That is what will make your pitch to the B school different. And that is what will make the effort that you need to put in this whole process very different when you go through this whole entire journey of applying for MBA this year, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a perspective of each and every aspect. So before that, let me just introduce myself. I'm Shreekala. I'm one of the co-founders of Crackverbal. I'm also the chief mentor here at Crackverbal. I head the admission consulting. I work personally with a lot of students every year, specifically who are applying to top schools only, top schools in India, top schools across the globe. We do not have any tie-up schools or anything. So the idea is we work specifically only with people who are coming with some level of credentials in terms of what they want to achieve. Um, uh, our goal or Crackables focus is always to help people make smarter career decisions. Right. So at every point of the process, whether it is GMAT or GRE or whether you're applying for an MBA or master's, the idea is that you should know why you're applying, right? And don't look at it like a essay writing process, or don't look at it as a process where you just have to get done with it. It can be overwhelming, it can be a little exhausting, but well, that's the whole game, right? So I just want to make sure you guys are prepared for it, right? So all right, so let me get started then. So before that, can I have a quick chat on quick ping on the chat? Maybe you can just tell me where are you joining from. Also, what is your expectation from this session? Maybe just type in on the chat window. That'll help me. And also to make sure that none of you are sleeping. I know it's Sunday afternoon. By the way, in my community, I just had an Onam Sadhya. Not a good idea, but I'm energetic and I'm trying my best to make sure that I add value till whatever time we are looking at. We are looking at around 1.5 to 2 hours of session today. I want to make sure I have add value in this session, right? So yes, where are you guys joining from? What is on your mind? What is bothering you at this point? More from the entire application process. Just put it on the chat window. Hello? You can hear me, right, guys? Somebody has to type in Bangalore. Okay, Kiran. Okay, what's on your mind? Hi, Kiran. I think you were there for the session yesterday also. Hi, Prachi. Yeah, quite a few of them. Mumbai. Okay. Others, type in, type in. Let me see, where are you joining from? Wow, Asta, Shimla. Nice. Mumbai, Vinesh. Okay. Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad. Others, Delhi. Okay, perfect. Great. So keep typing in, guys. But thank you so much for joining in. And I hope, and I want to make sure I add value in this session. So let's get started. Okay, GMAT is in the mind as of now. Fair enough, Nitin. Perfect. Nitish. Perfect. All right. So let me get started. So, I want to start with one thought where I know what's going on in your mind, right? Most of you, at whatever stage you are, there are some aspects to this whole decision of doing an MBA which causes a lot of anxiety. One, obviously, in fact, we covered this in the session yesterday. So all those who could not attend the session yesterday, please ping any of my team members who you are talking to. They will send you the recording for yesterday's sessions. You can take a look at that. But more importantly, I understand that the whole uncertainty that is happening generally across the world, the news that you hear about top school people not getting jobs, or all these visa regulations, and generally across the world, because of the war and because of the tariffs, things are quite messed up right now, more from a job perspective. And I understand there is some level of anxiety over there. Second is, obviously, some people I know, I talk to so many people every day, and I know that, more from a career perspective, you are at a juncture where you feel that I really need to do something. And MBA looks like a very good and viable option. You are also wanting to look at R2 so that you don't miss out on this year, 2026 intake in most cases, or 2027, whatever timeline you're looking at. And obviously, there is family pressure. I remember talking to someone. He said, Shree, I have to get married next year. My parents are not going to, if I don't do an MBA, this is what is going, I have to get married. So I want to make sure I'm done with my MBA before that. Fair enough. This is a very common and a very logical aspect of why this timeline is makes a lot of sense for people, right? And I understand that. That is one aspect. This is in most people minds. Yes, no, maybe put a thumbs up if you agree to what I'm saying. This might be some part of the anxiety that's there on your mind. Yes, I understand that, right? Yeah. So cool. So I understand that. Now what I want you to do is, for this session, and let's focus on it in a very positive way, right? And like I said in the yesterday's session, also, don't go with the worst case scenario. Let's go with a good best case scenario. Don't make it into a do or die decision for your career, right? Remember, you will have a lot of career pivots. If you get an admit to Chicago Booth and not Wharton, if you get an admit to I am Bangalore and not, I am Ahmedabad, just a little bit of difference is not going to make a huge difference more from a career perspective, right? And I'll get to talking about why, right? But don't make it into a very do or die decision. Don't put have the perspective that, look, I understand this is a time that I need to invest on an MBA. I need to look at it an investment on myself, whether I'm looking at a 1 year or 2 year MBA. I want to go with a very clear understanding and logical mind. I want to make sure that, more from a budget perspective, I've thought through how much I can afford. I want to make sure that I align my profile in such a way that I can pitch for scholarships if possible. Again, you have to understand, scholarships, everybody doesn't get scholarship, right? So there has to be certain aspects that will get you that scholarship. And look at it more as a strategic investment in your mind, right? So I want you to reduce the whole stress of doing an MBA by saying that, yeah, because I'm going to put in this much money, this much has to be an ROI and all that. Because, like I said yesterday also, there are so many things that are not in our control. Let's look at it more from a career perspective. What are the things you need to focus on more from a career perspective? Let's look at it completely from that angle. Okay. So that's something that I want you to focus on. All of you are with me on this. Agree that we should not make it like a do or die decision. Say yes if you agree. Say yes if you agree. Yes, Vinesh. Perfect. Perfect. Others, just at least do a thumbs up or something so that I know you're not. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Great. Let's look at it this way. Okay, perfect. Now let's look at the first thing that will be important. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to talk about before I go to the school part of it, and this is, I think, is a very important part of your entire goal. And this is what I want all of you to do. If none of you have started your application process yet, if none of you, if most of you, so I'm assuming none of you have started your process yet. Say yes, or anyone who has started can say started. Anyone who has started can say started. Okay, most of you have not started. Okay, I'm just assuming that most of you have not started. Okay. Now, for people who have not started, this is one thing I want you to start with, right? Forget school selection, forget, everything else for now. Let's look at it from the first aspect. What I want you to do is, I want you to make sure that you have a very clear understanding of why you want to do an MBA. And once we have this in place, right, everything else will fall into place, right? Now, I know many people will say, tell me that, I don't know why I want to do my MBA. How do I go about that thought process? What are the kind of roles? I'm sure some people have that clarity, but some people don't, and that's also okay. It's completely fine. And what I'm going to tell you now is to help you figure those things out. And this is not very tough. This is not rocket science. There is some specific aspects that I want you to look at it more from an approach perspective. Okay. So the first thing I want you to look at is very clearly put your goal. So say for example, you say point A, write point A on your, if you have a pen or paper or something, write point A and put clearly what is your role. What is the industry you're coming from? What is the function? So say for example, if you're from tech and if you're an engineer, that is your function. What is your role? You're a software engineer. If you're a chartered accountant or, working for say EY, then maybe you are an audit analyst and your role is an auditor and your role is of an auditor, your function is more finance, right? So first clearly put what is your current role, what is your point A right now. Okay, with this I also want you to think of what are the skills that you bring to the table. Like for example, if your role requires you to have a lot of client interaction, then I'm sure you need to be very good with your communication skills. You need to be very good at stakeholder management. Maybe you are very good at people. You are the person who's very easily gels with people. You have a very good rapport. In your team, also, you're someone who has connects with across departments, right? That is one skill that you might have for someone who's has a client facing role. If you are a pure play tech person, then maybe you are very good with your skill, right? With your technical aspect of it. Maybe you work for a fintech company and you're an engineer over there. And you know that, okay, how does this whole fintech system work? Because you yourself have developed, been part of you've been part of projects where you've developed these features. Or if you're an investment analyst kind of a role, then you know that you have researched and you have done a lot of due diligence on a lot of companies to understand whether these are the companies that can go to the next level more from an investment perspective, right? So what happens is completely based on what your role is, try to identify that what do you bring to the table from a skills perspective. So that is the second step that I want you to do. The third thing that I want you to do is, now with the skills that you have and with the credentials that you have and with the experience that you have, what is the point B that can logically fit in, right? So one way to look at is you go organically, which is if MBA doesn't happen, then what is your career progression? What is the next promotion you'll get? What is the promotion you'll get after that? Plan, look at that, have a very clear mind map on that. And then with an MBA, what are the possibilities? What direction can you go? And more importantly, why? Right? If you say that, Shree, I want to get into consulting, then I want to know why. What is it that you will bring to the table in a consulting role? I was at the GMAT tour just day before yesterday, where we had test prep companies from top, all the CEOs and CF founders of test prep company had come. Obviously, I represented Crackverbal. What we understood, and there were people there was Amit Tyagi from ISB. In fact, he's a very good friend. There was the placement head of IIM Calcutta. There was the week before I was at the MBA tour where I met Kimberly, who was from the admission team of Stanford, right? Then from the other business school tours also. What happens is when you talk to these admission committee people, right? They will tell us that, okay, what are the kind of what is happening more from a B school perspective, from an economy perspective, what is affecting, what is not affecting. All these are things that are this is the kind of information we get. So what happens is you also want to understand that, okay, if I am looking at this particular role, say for example, if I am looking at a consulting kind of an option, then what are the options that are available for from a role perspective? If you look at consulting itself, there is strategy. If you're looking at it, there's operation consulting, finance, tech. There are multiple aspects. There are boutique consulting firms, like I spoke about yesterday also. So now if you're looking, I'm just giving consulting as an example because I see consulting as one big aspiration that most people who are applying for an MBA come for. Right. So if that is an option, then you also want to understand that what is it that you want to do even in that sphere? Go deep dive, research, try and understand that okay, if I'm looking at this kind of a role, what is it that I don't have today? What are the skills I don't have today? If tomorrow I'm put into this particular role, okay, MBA is something that will help me get there, but there are some skills you're going to develop more from a career perspective, right? More importantly, can you imagine yourself in that role in say 2027, 2028? Be futuristic about it, right? In fact, that is one thing that I focus on when I specifically work with people is I want to, these are the discussions that will be important in your whole brainstorming process, right? Which is what is the kind of role you want to get into? Why do you want to get into that kind of a role? What are the options that are available? Where is the market going? How big is this market? How big is this market in that geography? Some level of understanding that you do once you have a very clear clarity on what you want to do. What are your personal aspirations? What is the future of this role? See, one thing that you have to understand is you want to know whether you are going to be ready in 2027, 2028, depending on whether you're looking at a 1 year program or a 2 year program, right? So you want to know that, okay, in this particular industry, what is happening? You want to make sure you understand that, okay, supply chain, what is happening in supply chain? Okay, with the tariffs, how are different countries handling this, right? What is, why is US doing that? Why, how is that impacting maybe the semiconductor industry? How is that impacting, Apple or Amazons of the world, right? Is that even impacting? What are they doing about it? So if you're based on specifically what are the industry that you're looking at, do some research and bring in some clarity in terms of what you want to do in future, right? And this, like I said, this can be done in multiple ways. One aspect of it is when you start the process with a mentor or with an expert, this is one thing that you need to bring a clarity on. And once you have that, now you can go back to figuring out, and that's what I want to talk about, which is getting to the school selection part, right? And what I want you to understand, and this is something that I see every year in terms of, how people approach the whole school selection part of it. One is obsession to ranks, right? Yes, I'm not saying it is not important or, completely discarded kind of a thing, but don't be obsessed with it. Rankings are also part of the whole business school game, right? There are multiple parameters the way they are assessed on, and that is based on the survey that the B schools are given through these particular Financial Times or QS ranking and all that. If the school participates, then only they feature in the ranking. In fact, it was a big joke that a couple of years ago, Wharton didn't participate in the FT ranking and it was not even in the top 10 list, right? Wharton, right? So those things are there. But what I'm trying to tell you is don't go obsessed on that. Second is, data overload. Oh, I have to look at salary average. I have to look at time to get a job. I have to look at international data. I have to look at percentage of Indian applicants. I have to look at what is the average experience of the professors. I want to look at what is the average age of every, too much data, right? You will get overwhelmed with that. So don't go with so much of data overload. That is another mistake that lot of people do. Third is obviously following the crowd. Oh, so many people went there that people are doing good, so I will go there, right? Maybe a decision, but don't be obsessed on that part. And also be going with a very short-term focus. Like I said, at this time and age, it is important for you to have a long-term focus. Look at it from a long-term perspective. MBA is not like an ATM card where as soon as you come out, everything will come double double. That's not going to happen. Be realistic about it. It is not. It is a gradual process. MBA does help, but there is an ROI timeline to it. It goes from 2 years to 7 years in most cases, right? So, and depending on how much you are investing, it might even take longer. But look at it as a strategic investment, like I said in the beginning itself, right? Look at it more from that timeline perspective. I give this example every year, right? So, how many people over here are single? Say yes if you are single. All those people who are single, maybe married, married people can also relate to it. Yes. So many single people. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And now I'm getting a lot more yeses over here than for all my other questions. So see, what happens is when you're single, right? When you want to get married, there are multiple parameters that you look at, right? One is more from statistical parameters, right? Tall, you or whatever age limit, I don't know whether people look at experience, but maybe though there might be some statistical parameters that you have in mind. But then there are other aspects, emotional connect, ability to have a conversation, right? Ability to understand, value mapping and things like that. So what I want you to understand is choosing a B school is also a mix of both, right? Don't obsess too much on the statistical aspect of it, but also look at little more from an emotional aspect of it, right? Look at personalized parameters, that what matters most to you. Like for example, if you look at some very specific schools, right? The generally the culture is very if you talk to the alums, you will get to know that they're very friendly people, right? Or they always respond on LinkedIn. There are some specific schools you'll see that kind of thing, and it can completely be something that maps to what you want. Or say for example, some schools I know, like for example, okay, don't quote me on this, but most people from Columbia and Booth are quite A-type personalities, right? So very competitive in nature. But if you like that kind of a environment, that might be something you might thrive in, right? So that could be something that you could look at. I mean, that can be a parameter that maps to someone. Generally, assessment in terms of like, for example, a lot of people talk about this as more from an Oxford perspective, right? Say it was a school, very elite, very Brit kind of a culture they have. That is against a slightly different culture that you're looking at. So depending on what school you're looking at, look at it more from a self-fitment assessment also. Look at some emotional parameters also, and you will get all this data when you read some poets and quants, when you read the school website, when you go through the blogs on their website, when you talk to the people from the admission committee. There are so many of these events happening. I hope all of you are attending those events. In fact, there's one more happening, Access MBA tour, that is happening the next weekend in Bombay and Bangalore. Attend those sessions. You'll meet schools which maybe might not be in the list, but you will, once you go there, might not be in your top list, but go there, you will understand what generally people are also looking at, right? So, and what are these B schools talking about? In fact, I moderated a session in the MBA tour in Hyderabad, where we spoke about generally North American MBAs. And obviously, in the panel, there was Schulich and there was Kimberly from Stanford. There were two people one was from University of San Francisco and one was from some other school, I forgot. So these were the four people in the panel, and my entire focus was to ask them that, look, first time, this is uncertainty is something that is really bothering, people who are really applying. So what is your thought? So they gave their whole thought about how you should approach and stuff like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is, when you talk to them, you will also get an understanding whether that fitment is there or not. Because see, when you're investing 1 year or two full years, right? I want you to make sure you're comfortable. You have to be very confident on your decision, right? And like I said, again, not a do or die kind of a decision, but you should be happy that and excited that you're applying to that B school, right? So that is one aspect that I would really like you to look at more from a school selection perspective, right? So don't go obsessed with too much of statistical parameters. Go also a little bit with emotional parameters. And I also gave you how you should approach the whole emotional aspect of it for picking the right B school. Good. So far, good. Understood, everyone? Just type in yes if you understood. Perfect. Perfect. Great. Cool. So now let's look at it more from, understanding what metrics you want to look at. All right. What I've done is, again, I have put some parameters which are practical parameters. I've also put some emotional aspects of it, right? So how you would want to kind of look at it more from the practical parameter and emotional parameter aspect of it. Like for example, okay, I'll give that example in a while. Let me talk about each of these parameters to begin with. Okay. Now let's look at it more from a geography perspective. Okay, what are the career opportunities? What are the companies which are in and around that ecosystem? How easy or difficult it is to approach these companies. I spoke about the career development centers in each of these schools or the career services teams. whether it's even India, that's also something that is applicable for both India and abroad. So I'm not specifically focusing on abroad, but it's both India and abroad, right? Program strengths. What are the, there are some schools which have career tracks. There are some schools which have capstone projects. What are the kind of capstone projects that they have? What are the kind of clubs they have? What do they actually do? How does their day look like when you talk to these people, right? Alums, how does their, in US and all, it's not that every day, full day, they have 9 to 5 classes. They have hardly 2 or 3 hours of classes every day. That too, maybe only 3 or 4 days a week. The rest of the time, even in top schools, they are focusing on doing assignments and discussions and going for these coffee chats and stuff like that. That's how it works. So it's not like full day you'll have classes throughout the week, right? So that's also something that is slightly different than how you have been used to in India, right? Then obviously, what are the kind of post-MBA support and what is the placement history? Again, some practical parameters that you might want to still look at. Then look at the emotional aspects of it. What is the environment? What do they do? How do they help students? There are some schools that even before you join the program as a pre-MBA, so once you get an admit, there is a timeline from the time you get an admit and you accept the admit to the time you join the program. There are some schools that do some kind of pre-MBA courses almost 3 4 weeks before you get started. They work on your resume. They give you an understanding of they give you accounting classes. They have some consulting case study classes. So see, all this speaks a lot about the school, right? So get to know all these. Which are the schools? What else do they do? How do I get this information? All this again, like I said, fingertips. Just do research online. Go to Perplexity. Go to any AI tool. Do deep research. Get all this information out, right? So and obviously talk to alums, attend all these online MBA, all these MBA tools and stuff like that. That will also be one way of giving you that information, right? Now you'll say, Shree, I don't have time. It's September mid already. I have to apply for R2. When am I going to all that? Take some time. Like it might take you like an evening or a Saturday evening to do that, or a Sunday evening to sit and do that. Like I said, approach it with excitement. If you approach it with anxiety and nervousness, it's not going to help, right? So approach it with an excitement aspect of it, that you really want to know this. And obviously then look at the other aspect of it. How challenging is the program? I remember there was someone who told me work side versus Cambridge judge. Cambridge. Somebody told me that Cambridge is very academic more compared to Side. Side has a lot more projects, or a lot more extra stuff that is happening compared to maybe a Cambridge, right? Class culture, diversity aspect of it, readiness to embrace new perspectives. See, this is also very important, right? When you talk to especially foreign schools, if you look at schools like even India also, I would say this is something that is very interestingly adopted in a lot of schools. uh, Even if, for example, ISB or IMABCL, whichever school you're looking at, right? uh, what I've noticed is like for example, the vibe at ISB is because of the size of the class and because of the range of experience that people have, is very different than maybe an IIM Ahmedabad. In fact, if you talk to any alum also, they will say the same thing, or any student. A lot of students, most of you might will get this kind of a situation where you'll get an admit from ISB, you'll get an admit from the IIMs also, and then you'll say, okay, which one should I choose? And this is a confusion that every year everyone has. And there are some specific aspects that again maps to your emotional aspects, what matches to you a lot more than maybe somebody else. And there is again no right or wrong in this. It's completely based on what you really like, right? So that is another aspect that you want to look at it more from a school selection perspective, right? So cool. So this is clear on the kind of metrics that you want to look at, practical versus emotional qualities. Look at both. Don't obsess only on data, right? Yeah. So one thing is, again, this is something that I do as part of the brainstorming process also when we start the application process, which is some level of self-reflection that is required to understand why do you want to do that? Why does that matter to you, right? Those kind of aspects become a very important questions to know, right? To also understand even your gray areas. What are the areas that you are not very clear with? Maybe there are some areas that you want to go and research a little bit on to come back more clear on that aspect, right? Next, okay, when you're clear on your post MBA career goal, and now you are kind of looking at it from a school process. How do you come up with your strategic shortlist, right? Because see, when you start this whole, my whole topic of the session also is planning your R2, right? And one of the most important aspect will be obviously selecting the schools you want to apply. Now, again, vast ocean, so many rankings. Somebody is saying apply to Europe, somebody is saying apply to UK, somebody is saying pick Ireland, somebody is saying pick. It's so confusing, right? Now, like I said, sit down, think through, plan your post MBA role. Budget can be a constraint you have. Geography can be a constraint you have. Timeline of the course can be a constraint you have. Experience level can be a constraint you have. Based on whatever you have, list your non-negotiables first, and based on that, look at, okay, plan out how you want to shortlist, right? Like I said, both keep a good balance, practical, emotional, both. Then, based on that parameter, look at, okay, how are you going to uh, focus on shortlisting this? One thing that I focus on, and more from a Crackverbal perspective, is uh, I like to keep a very balanced portfolio, right? I don't want you to look at only all ambitious options. Apply to only see, the problem with only ambitious option is that you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? There is a reason why it is ambitious. Ambitious is not because the school is really top. The ambitious is also because it's extremely competitive. Every person who's applying to that school is coming with stellar profiles. And I'm telling you because I work with them, right? Stellar profiles, great resumes on their, great brands on their resume, very good career progression, done really good things more in terms of the kind of quality of work they would have done, or the kind of projects and companies that we have worked with. These are the kind of people you are, kind of competing with, which means that it will be important for you to understand that when you are selecting the school, have a good mix. There is an ambitious list, pick one or two in the ambitious list, pick two or three in the safe or a reach kind of a list. Don't put too many categories. Put ambitious list, put a reachable list. You just want to make sure that in this category, you are getting in, because your safe will be completely a backup plan, which is not going to be extremely competitive for you. For that, honestly, I mean, you can always take that as your backup plan, right? But your plan A should be a solid mix of ambitious plus a balanced list of both ambitious as well as a reachable kind of a list. Since we don't have any tie-ups, there is no pushing any school down your throat, because there is nothing I have to gain from there. So the focus is completely on your profile. So that is one aspect. And obviously having very clear understanding of why you're choosing the school, right? So once you have that, like I said, shortlisting process, focus on your post-MBA career goal, then choose what path, and then finally, based on that geography that you're looking at, select the schools, right? See, once you have a very clear understanding, if, say, for example, you say, Shree, I don't have any geography preference, I'm open to, anywhere in the world, then I would want to start with the post MBA career goal first, then pick what makes more sense across geographies. If you say no, US is a complete no-no and it's completely understandable, then look at, okay, what are the other geographies that are possible based on the career option that you have, and what are the kind of schools you should look at, what are the emerging schools, what are the pros and cons of each school or whatever, based on your profile, select those schools based on that, right? So some people come with very clear aspects of these are the schools I want to apply, which is also okay, then we go with that. But if some people, the focus is always to use the mentor to even get their value add, right, in terms of their expertise and that their experience, right? So that will really help. So that's another aspect more from a school selection part of it. So far clear, everyone? Thumbs up, yes. Any questions so far? Perfect. All right, good. Okay, then let's look at what are the program selection that you want to look at. Why this is important, why this can be a quick one day kind of a research that you will need to put in if you're doing it by yourself. One aspect of it is, based on 1 year program, put all your program path selection, right? And then when you're looking at the geography aspect, look at, like, for example, if you're looking at US as a geography, you want to pick, if you're coming from a finance background, you know that there will be a lot more jobs in the financial capitals of the world. If you're open to other parts of the world, maybe you want to look at Singapore as an option. Maybe you want to look at Hong Kong as an option if you're open to that. Maybe you want to look at New York, schools around New York as an option if you're looking at finance as an option. Washington, London, no, all these places if you're looking at finance as an option. Visa and work is the regulations. We spoke about it yesterday. What are the industry hubs? Again, when you're looking at Bangalore or when you're looking at India as an option, honestly, in Indian schools, you don't have to worry too much as long as you don't have very specific focus on. That's one thing that the B schools were talking about yesterday, and I spoke about yesterday also. Don't go too rigid in terms of the location part, especially if you're looking at India as an option. Go with an open mind, focus more on the role aspect of it, because that will be a very important, because you know that in India there are multiple areas that are really coming up and developing, so there is requirement of good MBA talent. So that's always going to be there if you're looking at India specifically as an option. And if you're looking at other countries also, look at it more from, you might want to be closer to the cities. You might want to be aware where there is a lot of, there is a technical hub or an entrepreneurial hub, anything that maps with what you want to do, more from your post or your future perspective, right? And obviously cultural adaptation. Imagine yourself living 5 years, 6 years at least over there, because you have to make sure that you earn whatever you have invested, especially if you're looking at studying abroad, right? So that will be one point that will be important for you to kind of look at, um, when you are looking at the path or the geography, right? Next and the most important thing over here is, and this is what everybody's fretting on, and this is what everybody thinks is part of the whole application process. This is the deliverable, yes, but this is a very, very important part of the process, where I want you to make sure that you give in that time and effort on this. And trust me when tell you this, it is not that you have to open, your output has to be one Shakespeare level, complicated, super English wala essay. That's not required. It has to be simple. It has to be something that you can communicate. It has to be something that you can justify when you are applying to a B school, uh, especially in your interviews. It has to be something which is authentic. It has to be something that is you, right? And why I'm saying this is because today it's very easy to write essays, generic essays. Let me say generic essays, right? If all of you have ChatGPT, Cloud, I'm sure all of you have, just go give a background, say, this is my ISB prompt, this is my experience, this is the background I'm coming from. Please write a very beautiful, nice, impactful personal essay for me. It will throw something, right? The point is, everybody can do that, right? So, what is it that you bring to? You think these schools are not going to understand what you're, figure that out. Again, using AI is not the problem. Let me tell you that. Not having authentic stories is the problem. AI is not the problem. You can AI. I've been talking to all these B schools. It's like saying don't use internet or don't use calculator, right? So using AI is not the problem. Using AI in the wrong way is the problem, right? It has to have a lot of context. Your essay writing needs authentic voice. It needs to make sure that you connect the dots, right? Like for example, we have a ISB deadline today, so obviously a lot of people, thankfully, I finished everyone yesterday itself. But INSEAD is on 16, so there are some people who are applying for INSEAD also. See, what is the most important part of essay or the eye that a mentor can bring in or an expert can bring in is validating what you're saying, right? Even things like, I'll tell you more from an industry expertise perspective, because I'm not a content editor, right? I'm an industry expert. I've worked in the IT industry. I've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. I've worked with people who have got into top schools. So the I that I bring in or any other experienced mentor brings in is not the English part of it. It is the connecting the dots part of it. Because sometimes, some people will write that even things like I this guy is a CEO, okay, and he says that in one of the lines in the flow that he missed out, he said, though I have come with a background in finance, I might not know financial models, but I have been working on so and I want to develop and I want to get into strategy consulting part of it or whatever. Right now, that line was I was reading it and I said, hey, if you are somebody with a finance background and not knowing financial model is not right. It's an expectation. You work on that, right? So see, catching these kind of small things are also something that is a very important eye that you need to have, right? Whether it is making sense from a role perspective, from a job perspective, from an MBA perspective. You cannot say one of the essays said that I want to, the whole story was great, but it all came to making me feel that you are doing an MBA because you like collaborative environment. But then you can go anywhere else now. For MBA cannot be only for a collaborative aspect, right? There's some aspect of your career that you want to map. That aspect is what will be important for you to connect if you really want to craft good essays, right? There might be people who say, I wrote everything on ChatGPT, got it, got admit, I'm doing my MBA also. Yes, for sure. I'm sure many people can do that also. But my point over here is, I'm not going through a loose approach over here. I'm going through a very genuine approach, which will be required. And this also requires your time. MBA application consultants are not people who write essays for you. Be very clear and please stay away from people who do that. They have to be someone who help you understand what you need to write. They have to be someone who help you connect your career goals to what you want to eventually do, right? And that discussion has to be done so that then you can go back, you can draft your essays, come back, validate it, and then, finally submit. Right. So that's how the entire thing is. So, like I said, it will be easy for you to do. Your starting trouble will go, which is good. You can use AI, but make sure that your stories are authentic, your voice is authentic, what you want to say is also authentic, right? It should feel like this is what I remember, some essays when I read and when we discuss this, with when I discuss with these people, they say that, this is exactly what I wanted to say. And I can feel that excitement in their voice when they talk about it, right? So that's the whole fun part of the whole application process. And that's what I want you to also feel. It has to be a fun part rather than an anxiety kind of an approach. AI has made it a lot more easier. But I just want you to understand that you have to make sure that your narratives, your story come out very well, your authenticity come out very well. That's it. It has to be simple. It should not need not need any complicated stuff. No complicated language is required. But you also need to know that when you're talking about a specific school, why are you talking about it, right? That becomes a very important part of it. So far, so good. Clear on the essay writing part? Anyone? Clear? Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Great. Now let me look at the other very important part and which most people leave it to the last moment. Letter of recommendation. See, why this LOR is an important part, right? Is because and this is especially true for when you're looking at schools abroad, right? Indian schools, yes, but what I have noticed is it's not so much of a focus. It is, but it's not something which really matters too much for Indian schools than it does for foreign schools. Don't leave it till the last moment, right? Lot of people do that. This every year I have this problem where people leave the LOR to the last moment. They embellish something and they submit. There is no problem in, see, I understand that a lot of recommenders will say, Arey, you write whatever you want, I will submit, don't worry. All that will happen to you also, right? But my point is, I want you to make sure that you don't keep it at the last moment. At least identify who you want the recommender to be. It has to be professional recommendation only. So make sure that you do early planning. I understand that there might be, some fear that you have, that what if I miss any opportunities? Oh, I have a promotion due. If I go and ask my boss right now, that will go for a toss. I don't know how this person will take it. They will think that I'm going to leave the job. That means they won't give me extra challenges. I understand. This is something that everybody faces, and it is understandable. What I want you to do is identify who could be a safe person for you, right? It can be a senior who has supervised you at any point. It can be your ex boss, maybe he's gone to some other company and now, so it's a safer option for you. It can be a senior colleague who has supervised you again. It can be your current boss who you have a great rapport with and you can talk about it perfectly fine, right? If you're in your own family business or something like that, you can't take it from your family, but you can take it from clients, you can take it from vendors. All that is a possibility, right? What I want you to do is, even if they can't write, at least talk to them and get insights from them. At least get to know what do they think about you. If they have to talk about your strengths, what will they say? What examples can they give? If they want to talk about your weakness or areas of improvement, what will they say? What examples will they give? Do they remember any specific instant, any project? Get all that information right now, and this can go in parallel, right? Again, make sure that it can be like a discussion kind of a thing. Talk to them, reach out to them, understand what is that you want to kind of get, what is that information. If they say no, you write yourself, okay, no problem, you write, but at least get that content from them. That will be a very important aspect, because the way they speak or the way they are trying to talk about it has to come from them, right? Because there are certain, when you say something about yourself versus what they say something about you will be very different. So you also want to understand how they looking at it, right? Because one common thing, like areas of improvement, everybody will say has to prioritize, has to delegate. This is the same standard example I read every year. But the whole point is the way it is said, the examples that can be given, that can be unique, right? And that can make the whole difference in the way it is told, even with same points of prioritization and delegation, right? So this is something, don't keep it for the last. Try to see if you can kind of get this information beforehand through a discussion, go meet, take them for coffee, sit in lunchtime with them, talk, get some kind of gyan from them. And I believe me, every manager loves giving gyan, right? So this is something that they would love doing. So you want to kind of make sure that you go and talk to them, right? So that is one thing I would suggest you should do, trying to build that support system for yourself. Good so far? Clear? Any questions over here? Just say yes, clear, no questions, whatever. Chat window, please. Perfect. Perfect. Awesome. Great. So I think there are some people who are representing everyone. So I'm just going with Kiran and Vinesh and Chakravarti right now, who are representing everybody else who's listening to me over here. Right? All right. So cool. So let me go to the next point here. Interviews. See, what happens is when you look at this whole entire application process, right? I always tell people that when you submit, right, that essays, because what you are writing in the essays, let me pick ISB because it's fresh in my mind. I just reviewed, somebody's final application half an hour before this webinar. There are three questions, right? The first question says, what are your leadership skills? They want to know, okay, give me some experiences that showcases leadership, right? So that is what they want to know. Second question is saying that, okay, what has been your learning approach? And based on that, why do you think you want to do an MBA, right? So a why MBA kind of a question. The third question says that, okay, we will admit you to ISB, but why do you want to come to ISB? How are you going to contribute to ISB, right? That is the third question. Now, what happens is you have to understand that you are portraying yourself as a personality in those essays. When somebody is reading those essays, right? You remember in this earlier old movies, it used to have somebody's reading a letter and a face comes out. It's that kind of a feeling, right? Because they are reading these essays and they should feel that they are kind of getting a hang of this person who is talking about himself in the first essay, because they are talking about examples on leadership qualities. The second is they're talking about their personal motivations and how it came, how they it came out on why they really want to do their MBA. And the third is how they will be a great contributor to the B school, which is ISB. Now, when you're looking at this, what also happens is somewhere you have to start believing everything that you've written, because that has to reflect in your interviews also finally. So, this whole application process, right? There is nothing like a separate interview process, because throughout the process, you are training your mind to be ready for that interview. Obviously, you're not doing that application not to get an interview, right? I am also helping you only for that interview part only, right? That is my goal too, right? So the focus is that you have to understand that interviewers are not there to they want to say that, okay, can I imagine this person in the school? That is pretty much what they want to look at, right? They want to know how clear are you in terms of your communication. Are you confident when you're talking about certain things? Are you confident when you're talking about your post MBA career goals? How much do you understand about leadership, about the business that you're working in? How much of depth and insight you have about the kind of work you do, about the kind of clients you're working with? How much kind of understanding do you have about the futuristic goal you want to get into? What are the kind of, what is the purpose? Why do you really want to do an MBA? Are you clear on that? So a lot of these, in fact, I remember this, one student last year, after a mock interview that we had set up, came and told me that this was it was like a conversation. It was not like an interview. I said, interviews are like that. They are conversations. They are not, it is not like how you used to have in, placement college. I don't know how placement college interviews work now, but it's not like they are, it's not like a KBC happening over there, right? It's not like a question answer session. It is a conversation. Every interview, whether it is ISB, whether it is IIMs, whether it is foreign schools, it will be a conversation. It will not be an interrogation. So you have to be comfortable in talking about whatever you're saying. So this entire process has to culminate to that part where you're confident about talking whatever you want to do. So how do you kind of go about it? So like I said, they are looking at interviewing you to imagine you as part of that particular school, that class, who's going to be there for 2 years, 1 year with all the other people who are there in that particular class, right? So that is their approach to why they are looking at interviewing you. So you also have to look at it more from making sure that you pitch yourself in that perspective. So that is the most important part of it. So what do you need to do? Obviously, you have to prepare your CV, you have to prepare your application, you have to be genuine, you have to be authentic in terms of how you go about it. Research, look at, how does it align to your school values? A lot of people talk about community, a lot of people talk about, oh, I really like this particular club. What if a lot of people talk about how talking to an alum, they felt so warm and connected. There's so many aspects. I remember last time I had Manasa who had applied to Yale and she got in also, and she said, so I always tell, especially for foreign schools, I tell, don't only talk to Indian students, talk to foreign students also. So she spoke to an African guy, and similar, he was also from a similar NGO kind of a background. And you know what? It clicked so well that he said, look, I'm going to refer you for an application waiver after the call that she had, and also referred her to the school that she is a good candidate, right? She can be a great candidate. See, it's not that the school will still evaluate her profile, but this adds value. This was just a random alum that she reached out to, spoke, was able to, pitch herself well and get into a school like Yale, right? So these kind of options are there. So you also want to make sure that you look at, these aspects. So, from now to whatever timeline you're looking at, R2 in January or December, January timeframe, spend some time. See, this does not require so much of time. You just have to make sure you take out time for this because it's important, right? So that is one thing that I wanted to kind of talk about more from an interview perspective also, because uh, go with that mindset even from the beginning. Don't go with an interrogation mindset, right? Clear so far on this aspect? Everyone clear? Perfect. Thank you, Priyanka. Sorry, Adeep. Okay. Great. Tanmay. Okay. Some more people have responded this time. Great. Thank you. All right. Perfect. So now let's look at the next part. Now, what happens, right? Everything I wanted to talk about this also is because this is also one part which a lot of people. So I have a team. I have Crystal, I have Ashmi who really help. people for their last minute thing, but a lot of it has to come from you, right? So you have to make sure you write your scholarship essays. You have to look at, talk to people with for finance, maybe get some ideas right now. But even in your application, right, there are small, small things that will be important. And sometimes you won't imagine the kind of questions I get. And see, I don't call it stupid questions or anything, because it's okay. This is something that will come to anyone's mind, because there's a lot of anxiety that goes in this whole process, right? So they'll be like, there is so just yesterday I got this question where it said, which are the other schools you want to apply, right? Now, what typically happens from a candidate perspective is, should I tell them the truth that, oh, I'm applying to all these other schools? Will they not give me an admit if I say I've applied to these competitor schools also? No. It is just a survey question, right? But see, that they don't know, right? So they have to ask us that, what should I write? So I always tell them, go with the truth. Don't worry, it's a survey question. It's not going to impact your application, right? But these are things that will come to your mind. A lot of people do last minute typos, making sure, salaries are put from dollar to INR kind of a thing. That is one confusion that people do. So there are some small, small things which will be like an operational stuff which you need to do in the end. Make sure that, so some schools have video interviews now. So some schools you'll have to submit 24 hours before the deadline, because the video application will come up, the login will come up in 24 hours. Some schools you have to do after the deadline. So I just got the one person I'm working with. He said he's going for a vacation. We submitted 4 applications to all four top M7s. And the last one, Duke, is left, which is end of this month. And he says, I'm going for a vacation right now, because with work and handling all this application was something that really made me take this vacation. So yeah, planning that out so that your video interviews are taken care of is also something will be important, right? So yes, it will be effort will be required in this whole process, but you just have to make sure that and like I said, we have a good system in place where we make sure that there is someone who's managing this operational stuff along. So I completely focus on the mentoring and the application strategy aspect of it, where the team focuses on the logistic aspects of it, right? So all those things, getting your LOR in place, your resume in place, how do you want to portray it? All those things are something that will be important as part of this process, right? So these are something. Final application review, handling rejections, again, not all. So see, we just need one admit. That's what I tell people. Don't never get demotivated when you don't get when you get a reject. I understand there's a lot of effort that is gone, but only thing we have to focus on is we just need that one good admit, right? So go with that aspect, that there might be few acceptances, there might be rejects also. All that is part of the game. We have to make sure that we put in best when we are looking at applying to these schools, right? So that's how I would want you to kind of look at more from an R2 perspective. It is all possible. Hundreds of people do this every year. It is not a big deal unless you make it a big deal. It is something that is manageable along with a full-time job. If a lot of people do that, I think most people who apply for an MBA program are applying with full-time jobs. There is a little bit of anxiety. Ke pehle, should I finish my GMAT and then should I look at application part? Again, that's completely up to you. Maybe you want to start with the first part that I spoke about, right? The whole post MBA career goal planning part. At least get that clarity, so that you're slightly more less stressed about figuring that out, because that can be a very important part for you to figure out your school selection part, right? So maybe you can keep that till your GMAT is done, and it's understandable. If you're very sure that this year I have to apply, come what may, then maybe starting early is a good idea. If you are in two minds, maybe this year, maybe R1, maybe apply to some schools in R2, apply to other schools in R1, that's also an option that you can have. If you're looking at, I'm not sure, then maybe you can delay your entire process a little bit and focus only on GMAT. It's completely based on what you feel, but don't go blind, like don't go not thought through, right? Go with, okay, ye nahi hoga, to I will do this. This is my plan A, this is my plan B, this is my plan C, right? So I want to plan it that way. This is how I want to go about doing it, right? So that's how I would suggest you should kind of look at it more from an entire process perspective, right? This is more around how we go about it. But before that, let me just Before I talk about that, maybe slightly in detail, I think I've already told about every aspect of, how we also, can help and how I go about the entire process. But before that, anything around this, anybody who has any questions around any of these aspects that we spoke about? I'm just going through these slides again. Any questions? I would like to help answer that because I know there might be a lot of questions, or aren't they? Questions? Any questions here? All of you are clear? So maybe thumbs up clear. Any area that you need, you feel I need, you want me to deep dive a little bit more into, you want me to explain any other aspect about how many days would be optimal for an entire process? Very interesting question, Chakravarti. See, actually, it is a very person to person kind of a thing, right? What happens is some people take longer time, but ideally, the more time you have, the easier it is. You can obviously do things in rush. People have done it in 15 days also. But optimum processes go slow. 1, 2 months, like now is a good time for you to apply to R2, right? So you start slow and go, till the R2. So that would be my suggestions. If, like I said, if you're very clear this year, you're looking at applying, it might be a good idea to start early also. So it can be, like I say, do if, but kind of a mind map on this and plan that. Earlier the better, slower the better, so that you don't, rush in the end. Does the chance of selection reduce in later rounds? R1 and R2 for international students and even for Indian schools, both are equally good. Um R3, yes, it reduces. R4 reduces a lot more because you also have to understand it goes closer to the start of the school timeline, right? So, what happens is, say, for example, if you look at R3 or R4, it will be sometime in February, March time frame. So, by the time you get a call for the interview, by the time the interview is over, by the time you apply for visa, finance, it's just too short a time. So, if you're looking at foreign schools, preferably R1 and R2. R1 is gone, so R2 is one option. R3, yes, if you feel that your score can improve drastically, or if there is that is the only option for you, that's also, then we have no option, right? But otherwise, if I would suggest, R2 might be a good option considering we are at September right now, right? Okay, another question is, for global schools, which top colleges give more prominence to GMAT, work experience, or average academic scores? Um, Okay, let me tell you why academic and GMAT is important before you get to this point. All right. Now, what happens is, one of the most important part of an MBA is the rigor of the program. There is something that you'll have to balance your academic, along with you have to balance it with your assignments you have to do. You might be going for internships, you might be working, doing some capstone projects. So that requires some level of intelligence and aptitude that is required, and that's pretty much what GMAT is, right? So the average of academic scores or GMAT is completely to look at your ability to manage that rigor of the program. So yes, if you have a good academic record, it will definitely. So it's like this, no? I am working with someone who has very good academic record but not great GMAT score. So what we are trying to do is, in her additional essay, we are trying to say that this is an anomaly. I have been a gold medalist all my life. Look at my academic record. I might not be good at aptitude tests, but look at this. I've done research papers. I've done this, that to showcase her academic rigor. That is a possibility. We can do that. But if you don't have a great academic record, then GMAT score being high will be an important thing to showcase that, look, that time maybe I didn't have a great academic this thing, but now I'm good at it. Look at my GMAT scores. I have a great GMAT score. Right. So that's how the whole value of GMAT versus average academic scores comes in. Work experience is completely based on what the economy is looking at. On an average, it ranges from 2 years to maybe 7, 8 years in most schools. That is the range. Maybe higher in some schools. Some schools, like I know of people with 15 years, 20 years experience who have also gotten. But The range is around 4 to 6 years. That is the average of most people in that range. That will be from an average experience perspective. Again, don't look at it like a cutoff that Indians are, it's like our thing, right? Our Indian education system focuses on cutoff. It's not a cutoff. It is today, even somebody with 2 years experience could come up with really solid background and profiles, right? So it has nothing to do with an experience. Even with 2 years experience, people have done some amazing things which might not even be comparable to somebody with 5 or 6 years experience, right? So uh, competitiveness in terms of career progression will be more important than the number when you're applying to these good GMA MBA programs, right? Um, Also, any impact of scholarship. What do you mean by impact of scholarship? You mean for the rounds? Is that what you mean, Kiran? I think that's what I understood. Okay. Yes. See, if you look at it from a B school's perspective also, right? When R1 was there, they will say R1 is the one where maximum scholarships are given. It can be partly true, but I have seen a lot of people who have got scholarships in R2 also. Yes, it will come down in the subsequent rounds. R3, R4, and all, fewer scholarships, but R1 and R2 are equally good for scholarships. So if you are really eyeing for R2, it still might be a good option, right? So don't worry about that part. R3 is fine for Indian schools as long as you are going with your full strength, right? So focus on applying with a very strong profile rather than worrying too much about whether I should apply in round one or round two kind of a thing, right? How many LORs are normally needed? Most Indian schools like ISB requires only one LOR, but most other schools require two. Most foreign schools also require two LORs. So two people should be something. So if you're looking at around 5 schools, either you prepare these two to apply, help you apply to all the 5 schools, or get one, excuse me, get one more person who's your backup plan, right? Who can be used for, alternatively in few schools, right? LOR, in terms of recommendation, pick people who really know you well professionally rather than the title. So there might be a CEO who your dad knows very well and can give an LOR, but that person doesn't know you very well professionally. Then no, pick someone who knows you very well professionally, supervised you, and has been at the higher order. So if you can get it from any alumni of the school who has worked with you, maybe your boss is from ISB and you work very closely with that person, great. And if you're applying to ISB, that can be a great leverage that you can have, right? So get that person to help you with the LOR. Right? What kind of LORs? Only professional LORs. That is the most important part. It has to be professional LORs only, right? Any other question? You can ask any question, anything that's bothering you. No college LORs, only professional LORs. It has to be professional LORs only. Yes. Okay, so the question is, does recommendation from a non-alumni have less impact, especially for ISB? No. See, it's like this. If there is an alumni who's a commender, it is an advantage, but non-alumni is not an advantage. Not everyone can have an ISB boss, right? Boss from ISB, right? So that's absolutely okay. As long as they can talk really well about you. So also you want to get people who you can trust very well, right? Who can so ultimately, even if you have to apply, if they say you only have to write, but you still have to make sure that they are the people who submit it, right? You don't submit it on behalf of them. That's one thing. How does a college scholarship work? Do colleges have? Yes, some schools do have 100% waivers also. It is a possibility. So I'll tell you, there is a strategy for that, and some people are open to those kind of options also. So what happens is if you go slightly lower in terms of the ranking in the school ranking, not many people are applying with higher scores. Now, say for example, and this happened like even last year, somebody went with a 100% tuition fee waiver. He applied with a 735 on the focus edition to UNC Kenan Flagger. He was a Nepali candidate from Nepal. with a 725 on his GMAT. He didn't apply to Indian schools because he had an online GMAT score. So he used that to get a 100% scholarship to UNC Kanflaga, because not many people are applying to UNC with a 725 on the focus edition, right? So that is one option. I've had somebody who got a 100% tuition fee waiver from, say, WP Carey. Again, he had a very high GMAT score, applied to a lower ranking school. So obviously your tuition fee, they want people with higher scores because their ranking will go up and all that, right? So based on that, there are schools that give you that kind of scholarships also. So yes, it is possible. Again, it's not like this college gives 100% waiver. It's not like that. It is more around what you bring to the table that can give you, that can make you eligible for a 100% waiver, right? So one strategy is go lower ranking, apply with a high GMAT score, then there is a very high scholarship option for you to get a waiver. All right. What is the next question? Score of GMAT is prior requirement for a B school. Well, it is a good filtration. I'm not saying filtration criteria, but it is a very important filtration, important criteria. Like I said, academic potential is a very important aspect of any B school to get the person to the class, right? So they want to make sure. However, there are some schools that do give waivers, but waivers doesn't mean less competition. Waivers means more competition. There are a few people I have worked with who got waiver, but these were CAs, done CFA level 1, 2, 3. The work involves a lot of analytical skills. So our pitch when we sent the waiver essay was also to say that, look, all the things that you're looking for from a GMAT is already something that I am very good at because of my background and because of my credibility, right? And that's why give me a waiver. So in such cases, there is a possibility that people do get waiver, but not everybody gets a waiver. How many full marks are required? I mean, see, okay, from what I understand is that you are asking me that it's not like a number of marks that you need to take, it's the score that you need to get through those marks, right? Try taking, MBA.com has 2 free ones, and then there are 4 paid ones also. You can look at that. These are the best ones that are available. Apart from that, there are many other options that you can take some full length mocks. The focus is not to take mocks, but the focus is to score high on those mocks. The moment you start seeing a good score on the mocks, go ahead and book your date and go ahead and apply, right? So that should be your plan. And if you're looking at SPJ and ISB, perfect. These are great options. You can apply with your GMAT scores. Again, there is no section wise cutoff, but they do value high quant scores because it is a very important analytical, and your logical bent of mind is a little important. So total score is more important, but there is no sectional cutoff, but they will value people if you have a very high quant score, right? So it'll be of help. Would LOR from a director of a freelance project have any gravity, considering it was short time we worked together? See, if there is no other option, then yes, but I would prefer somebody with a more long-term option. Freelance project, if that is if that is the only option, then no problem. But longer duration, more than a year kind of a thing might be any day preferable, right? What can be a safe score on GMAT to apply with the Indian school? Again, it completely based on competition, but if I have to give you a number, 645 to 655 and above should be something that you're looking at for an Indian school for sure, right? Again, other aspects of your application also will be important, like I spoke about in terms of having clarity of goals and stuff like that. But yes, anything above 645, 655 should be a decent score for you to kind of look at applying to these schools. What are the college's top schools? All ABCL for their 1 year program, including ISB. ISBGN also looks at. Just search for it on the MBA.com website. There's an entire list. I think today in that GMAT tour, only somebody, GMAT conference that I went to, they said they have close to 170 schools in total that accept GMAT scores. So you can have a look at it on the MBA.com website itself. Yeah. Right. Any other question? Can GMAT score compensate for low academics? Yes, it can. Definitely. See, this not so great career trajectory, right? It is what you tell them, right? And so the question is for everybody else, if your GMAT score is low, or your academics is low, then have a good GMAT score. That will definitely help. But this whole pitch to say that your career progression has not been great is what you tell. See, what you tell is what people will hear. You don't have to fib, but you have to look at it from a different lens. What makes progress? What is progress for you? Maybe more roles and responsibilities is progress for you. Maybe getting new projects is progress for you. Maybe getting more challenges is progress for you. Maybe getting decent hikes is a progress for you. Maybe having different titles, because title, what happens is, if you look at it more from a title perspective, that can change from industry to industry. Not every industry has the same level of title option, right? So that can change. So don't look at it more from, I mean, the more important aspect of it is how are you going to portray how are you going to pitch yourself to the school, and that will be a lot more important than anything else, right? How many mock to be a ये तो हो गया ना. I'm appearing for the first time. Okay. How many mock? There is no number of mock. Two free mocks are there on mba.com. There are more paid ones that are there. There are multiple websites. You can look at prepathon.ai too. There are a lot of questions that you can practice from. As long as you're able to get more accuracy, and you're seeing the right mock test score, just go ahead and take the test. There is no number to it. The focus has to be on how much you're scoring high on that, right? Yes. So the question here is Ahmedabad says 4 years and above only. And by the time March 31st, 2026 is the time that they will calculate. So if you are 4 years plus by March 31st, 2026, then you are eligible. If not, you are not. Even with 3 years, 10 months, you won't be not, right? So they are pretty strict in terms of the 4 years plus thing. In fact, I think Bangalore's has 5 to 12 years. That's also something that they are quite this about, right? Yeah. If the applicant is applying to multiple B schools, do recommenders need to send recommendation for each school according to their respective deadlines? Yeah. So the way it works is you are on the application portal. You have a lot of things that you need to fill. Your personal information. You'll have to upload your essays. Get your LOR done and all that. In that LOR section, there will be name, email ID, and phone number, and then you will have to press send. There will be an inform and an email with a login ID or something that will go to them. School to school it changes. They have to fill everything. Once they fill everything, then they have to submit. Once it submits in your portal, it will say complete, right? So in fact, like ISB deadline is today, but their LOR deadline is till 19th. So your recommenders can apply till 19th. So like that, schools give some timeline even after the deadline for you to apply. So it's completely based on the school, that or the deadline and the school that you're looking at applying. Yeah. So again, the average score and all that is already there on the school's websites that you're looking at. All those things are very clearly stated. You can have a look at the class profile of the school. All this average score, everything is written for, everyone. So before we just close, I think I'm not sure whether you have any more questions. I'll just give you a very basic idea of how we work around this entire thing, and how we can help you at Crackverbal too. The entire process is something that we can take care of, we help you with. More importantly, the whole idea is that at any given point, you will have someone to ask questions. You will have someone to guide you in this whole process. But we need really serious people. I don't want people who think that, it's not something you outsource. It is something that you have to work towards, you have to be serious about, you have to put in that time and effort for this entire process, right? So go with that process. Like I said, I've kind of focused enough that this is a very interesting way and positive, go with a very positive, very excited method to kind of look at how you are looking at applying to any of the schools that you're looking at, going with a very good, clear, mature understanding of why I'm picking this school, why I'm applying to this, what is it that I want to do in life, am I clear? if I'm not clear, maybe not 100% clear, I'm 80% clear, because GMAT MBA is a place where you get to explore. Maybe you will figure out different things. Maybe what you told in your application will be completely different than what you will actually do. All that is okay. Nobody's going to track you down saying, hey, in the application you did consulting and now you're going for investment money. All that is not going to happen. Right. So you just have to be what is true for you today, and what you futuristically are looking at doing is what you have to kind of focus on, right? So that's pretty much what you need to kind of look at and enjoy the process when you're applying. Are the schemes? No, the school essays are very, very different. Every school has a different essay. Like I said, ISB has these three essays. INSEAD has some motivational essays. They have some career-related essays. They have some behavioral essays also, to each in each of these. Like for example, there are some schools like NUS has, or I think HEC has this essay that if you had to be something in your alternate life, what would that be? Things like that, right? So it's um, very interesting essays. In fact, some are really, really interesting essays to look at, and it's fun to even think about it and write that and discuss that. So yeah, they are different. The post MBA career goal will be same, but you maybe some will be 450 words, some will be 400 words, somewhere you'll have 200 words only. Like for example, if you apply to LBS and any of these UK schools, they have questions where they say that what level of research have you done to understand the recruitment that is happening in the kind of roles you're looking at post MBA, which means you have to know what's happening, right? So you have to do that research, that I know that this particular company recruits in this way. So this is what, you have to look at, kind of thing, right? So those kind of things are, yeah. So those kind of questions are also there, which will be important for you to look at. But yeah, it's something that, if you really do it with your heart, and if you really do it in a very diligent way, it's a fun thing to go through. Yeah. What's the ideal score for SVJ? And I mean, I don't have the numbers, but it might be an average. And I think around 600 is their average. But again, every year it changes. This information can easily be got from their website. Just go to the website, you'll get the average score, average experience, average age, everything you'll get. So you can get that information from there. Right? Any other questions? I hope I did answer most of the questions. I think we spent around 1.5 hours on this. Clear, right? Is it overwhelming, guys? But is it possible? Of course. All the rounds, the questions are the same, Chakravarti. All the round questions are same. It doesn't change. Yeah. So yeah, all the questions, there's no surprise. It's not like an impromptu thing or something. You have to submit till the deadline. So that's not something you have to really worry about. Where can we practice GMAT mock? MBA.com has 2 free mocks, GMAT 1, GMAT Prep 1, GMAT Prep 2. These are the actual tests. There is a website called prepathon.ai, which has a list of lot of GMAT-like questions that you can practice. Apart from that, there is GMAT Club. You can look at practice questions from there also. Does Crackverbal help with IIMs? Apart from, of course, we help with all the IIMs, all good schools in India and abroad. Right. So yes, we do. Right. Will the interviews focus on current affairs like IIMs? So are you talking about foreign schools or Indian schools? See, I'll tell you the whole current affairs part of it. So IIMs, I'm sure you're talking about the 2-year MBA program. But what is in, like for example, there was this IIM Ahmedabad has a slightly different interview process, right? The first stage is where you just have to fill in your application and submit with your GMAT score. There is no essay, nothing. That is stage 1 for them. Then they will give you a timeline. They will say, okay, within this time, you have to write 3 essays. So that 3 essays, you'll hardly get, sometimes you'll get only 3 days to write those essays, right? So you can, the whole idea is in those 3 days, you'll have to write those 3 essays and stuff like that. Now, after that is clear, in as part of this stage 2 itself, they will have the interview process also, right? In this interview process, in some places they do talk about current affairs, mostly it's around your target industry. So if you're from an energy industry, they will talk about something around the energy industry. If you're from a supply chain, they'll talk about that. If you're from finance, they might talk about that. They will ask you, it is more around how much of depth and understanding about your industry, because especially schools like IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and ISB for that matter, they want people who can contribute to the case study discussions. In fact, this is something that you will see, and I see in most of the essays, where they all talk about how they feel that contributing to a case study discussion is a very important thing. And if you really think you can contribute, which means you should have a depth of knowledge about your industry also, right? So that is something that will be of great value add when you talk about it. So that is the kind of current affairs that most people look at. So don't really fret too much about, not they're not going to ask you capital of some random obscure country or something like that. But the whole idea is, if you are from that industry, you should know what's happening, right? So that is some level of questioning that you research that you might want to do and read up around more around your own sector in specific. That will help, right? This is true. So the question is, with the current geopolitical situation in US, is getting T25 admit becoming vital source, secure a visa and post an MBA getting a job even possible? Honestly, I really can't do so much of crystal ball gazing because I'm not, see is it possible? Yes, possible. Uh, are there people who are not getting, Reddit is full of it, right? So it's Reddit is very scary. Today I saw somebody was bad mouthing INSEAD, saying that it is a very, I don't know. Reddit is very scary. So I would say stay away from Reddit. It will demotivate you from anything that you want to do in life. So that is one thing I would suggest. But see, go balanced in terms of your risk appetite. I don't know what's going to happen in the economy. I don't know what Trump is going to do. I spoke about this in the session yesterday. The idea is you go with your risk appetite. If you say this is the amount that I can spend more from a budget perspective, maybe I want to go to this school where I'll get a scholarship, I will get a high GMAT score, then that be it, right? That might be something that you would want to kind of look at. So it's absolutely up to you on how you feel. If whether if I am in your shoes, will I give it an attempt? I would say why not? Because what is my backup plan? My backup plan is sitting and doing nothing. That is not something I want to do, right? So I would like to first have an admit in my hand and then maybe take a call whether I should go or not go, right? Because I don't know, things can change in the next 1 year. We spoke about the whole visa thing in the yesterday's webinar also, right? So that's something could be that could get implemented by March 26 next year. So let's see, maybe that could change the whole game. I don't know. But at least it'll be great for people who go for an MBA, right? See, so there are some people who are asking me what should be range of score if you apply. See, honestly, it completely depends on what score you want to, like where you want to go to. If you're applying for Stanford or Harvard kind of a school, go with a very high score, go with a solid profile, go with a very competitive profile. I'll give you an example, like I don't know, do you guys watch this YouTuber called Mohak Mangal? Soch is his channel. He does amazing research work on a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not sure, has anyone, say yes if you have. His name is Mohak Mangal, right? And he has a channel called Soch. He's a Stanford GSB grad. He was last year, he's 2025 grad or 2024 grad, I think, right? He was in Stanford GSB. In fact, Crackverbal, as part of, so we were part of this program called Stanford Seed, which is for growth stage companies. Stanford believes that they have an understanding of what it takes for a business to transform, and with that perspective, we were part of that Stanford Seed program, and we worked with an intern who did some level of business modeling for us, and she was this Mohan Mangal's classmate, right? Look him up, look at his background, go to LinkedIn and look at his LinkedIn profile. You will figure out that that is the kind of level of profile that is required to get into a Stanford, right? That is the guy you're competing with. So when you're looking at M7s, that is what is required to get into a top school, right? So depending on what school you're looking at, go to the school website, look at the average experience. If you're looking at US schools, then add 20 points over there, because Indian applicants go with at least more than 20 points than the average that is there listed. If you're looking at Indian schools, the top five, IIM, ABCL, ISB, all these are top five schools. If you're looking at this completely based on what background you have, your GMAT score can vary. If you're coming with a very highly competitive pool, Indian, IT, male kind of a background, 4 5 years of experience, then you need to have a higher GMAT score, because a lot of people are applying with similar profiles. If you are a doctor, worked as a medical officer, in very rural villages, remote villages, done really awesome work, you have 3 4 years experience, then maybe a very high GMAT score might not be required, because these schools want competitive and diverse candidates, right? So again, bracket of scores. Okay, let me just give you a bracket of score. 600 to, okay, if you're looking at SPJN, maybe a 625 to a 645, 655 could be a decent score. If you're looking at ISB, a higher score, 645 and above, would be something that you should be looking at. Again, that it's not a formula that 3 years experience, KPMG, honors background with this much GMAT score will 100% get in. It doesn't work like that. There are close to 6,000, 7,000 applicants every year at ISB. Out of that, 900 people get in. And this year, I'm assuming that is going to even increase, with people not many people applying to foreign schools, right? So uh, again, you're still looking at 6 7,000 people who are applying across these 3 rounds, right? So look at it more from a competitive perspective. A good GMAT score, a higher GMAT score will increase the probability. Doesn't mean that people with average GMAT score don't get in. It depends on multiple other parameters that will actually matter. Got it? Cool. Any other question anyone has? I think I have kind of given you a good background on what you need to do from now to R2. I hope I hope it was not very overwhelming. I hope it has given you a very good idea on applying to what you need to do for R2. Okay, what are the typical errors applicants fall into while selecting an MBA program? See, again, not like an error kind of a thing, right? I spoke about it in focusing too much on, statistical aspects. Look at the emotional aspects of the school also. So it's not like an error. So I have not heard anyone who said okay, there might be people who said I went there and it was not my kind of school because the culture is very different, right? Then that is something that um, I mean, that is something that you didn't do well research on, right? So I think going with that research will avoid you from any kind of this really, really major errors. But mostly, most people, I don't think, you're spending just too much to go without any research, right? So most people at least would do some level of research and not do such a huge error. But most errors are more around the alignment aspect of it. I think that's pretty much it. Can we get a PPT? The entire recording is there on YouTube. I have relayed this live on YouTube, so you can just go through the entire thing again. Yeah. Cool. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this gave you a very good idea. I hope it gave you a clarity on, how you need to plan this. I hope I didn't overwhelm you, because that was exactly not what I wanted to. But at the same time, I hope I was able to bring in some clarity and genuineness in terms of how this whole application process needs to be done. Any other questions? I can stay back for a couple of more minutes. Please feel free to reach out to the Crackverbal team, whoever you're talking to, and we would love to help you out. Any questions? Any other questions? I am here. You can put on the chat window. If not, then thank you so much, guys. Have a wonderful rest of the Sunday. I hope I was able to add value. Thank you so much. All the best to all of you. Please do well. Please put in your best. And I'm sure all of you will get into the the MBA programs of your choice. All right. Thank you, Nandini. Thank you. Thank you, Vinesh. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Kiran. I'm so glad. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. More than happy to help. All right. Cool.